Back in 2010-11, nobody had heard about this word called experiential marketing, right? I think that's something come recently. When we are dealing with retail investors, we usually take a route of mass advertising. Approach for a website was not to talk about what we have to offer you. Of course, that happens, but that happens under the aegis of saying what are your problems as a person who's visiting the website.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to yet another episode of The Growth Genius, the podcast brought to you by Infidigit, the SEO specialists. It is here that we share growth stories in marketing and business by industry leaders. Our today's growth genius is someone whose career has traversed across various industries. Though he himself uses AI a lot in crafting his marketing strategies, but he also gives a lot of importance to the power of human interaction. Without further ado, please join me in welcoming Ronak Sheth, the CMO at 361. Thanks a lot, Ronak, for joining us on the Growth Genius podcast. We are truly delighted to have you on the show.
Thank you, Mehul. Thank you for inviting me to your wonderful show, and I'm glad to be part of it and to
Super.
contribute me.
Ronak, let me ask you, what role do you play as Chief Marketing Officer at 361?
Sure, Mehul. So at 361, I lead as part of my CMO duties and responsibilities. I lead marketing, branding, communications, PR, and media, as well as events and experiences across all the businesses that we have as part of our brand, which includes wealth management, asset management, our own NBFC, our own succession and estate planning business. So I look over across all of these activities, not only in India but across the globe. We've got overseas offices in Canada, US, Dubai, and Singapore.
Thanks, Ronak, for that. So my next question is, your professional life has transitioned across various industries. So tell us more about your journey.
That's true, Mehul. My professional life has been, how should I put it, very interesting and non-conformist type, because that's what I've been told. So I've never moved into the same industry again. I have, of course, been part of family managed business back in the days when I was in college, and I of course ran. I was with my father in his imports, paper and stationery business. Post which I of course started out on my own to start an IT education company, which of course these days we call ed tech. But back then we used to call it IT education, and this was right around the time when computers and information technology was taking roots in the country. So 1999, if I'm not wrong, and build that up in East India. I'm originally from Calcutta, and so all my initial work has been in that part of the country. Build that edtech business across 45 franchise centers and 45,000 students over 5 years, and then kind of sold that out, exited, and kind of did my masters from XLRI to then move to Bombay to join the largest paper manufacturing company in the world. And they were wanting to set shop in India and move their manufacturing facility from Zurich to India. So I led that project for 2 years, post which I moved to a professional training and coaching company in Bangalore, where they were the leading education professional training providers for the ITES segment, the information technology enterprise services, right? So your IBMs, GEs of the world. And those are the times when the BPO, KPO were, they finding their roots in the country. So led that for about
Mm-hmm.
1.5, 2 years. Back to Bombay with them to then join IIFL Private Wealth Management, in
Right.
2009, because that's what it was called back then, of course. And we've evolved in the last almost 16 years. In fact, uh, yesterday we
Wow.
completed 16 years of 361's existence. 8th of April was when, in 2008, when the company got incorporated. So yeah, and here we are
Wonderful.
16 years
Congrats.
away. One of the largest wealth and asset management company in the country. So with almost $55 billion of
Amazing.
assets under
That's amazing.
management.
And Ronak, since you mentioned 361, everybody would be intrigued to know, what that stands for. I would like you to share that story.
Sure. So as everyone knows, we got demerged. IFL Wealth and Asset Management got demerged from IFL Securities back in 2019. At that point in time, it was IFL Holdings, if I'm not wrong. So of course, we were separately listed on the stock exchange, which essentially meant we had our own set of investors, shareholders, employees, and clients. And forever, we've always focused on the wealth management side of the business since our inception, right? Of course, asset management did start about 6-7 years ago, but primarily at before since inception we were a wealth management company. So we've been toying with the idea since everything was separate, barring, of course, Nirmal and Venkat being core members in our growth journey since inception, and playing a pivotal role, and also as part of the board and shareholders. So in 2021, we were kind of toying with the idea of saying, how do we kind of gear up for the next decade, right? Because what is happening, Mehul, is we are seeing a huge intergenerational transfer of wealth from the older generation to the newer generation, right? And we were looking at something which is more modern, uh, more widely appealing to the audiences, right? So where it's acceptable even to the older generation as well as the newer generation. And we wanted to kind of bring out a name which essentially pronounced our ethos of how we did business. And 361 was a brilliant name that we came across, which is nothing but, simply put, 360-degree view of the one person who is most important to us, our clients. So that's the meaning of the word 361, which also is now
Wonderful.
our brand. And that's how
Yeah,
we
that
built it.
that's a amazing way to look at it. So I wanted you to share that story. So thanks a lot for that, Ronak.
My pleasure.
So since you have worked across industries, how are marketing strategies for BFSI different from, let's say, e-commerce or B2B or B2C or any other industry per se?
Sure, I think, Mehul, every industry has its own unique approach to marketing, branding, and client engagement, if I may use, right? Uh, and again, so all the more different when you're talking about B2B versus B2C, right? For example, when I was in IT Kids, which was my edtech firm, right, we used to actually go from building to building promoting our product and our brand, right? Because the biggest my target audience was 4 to 14 years old, but the decision makers in their case were their parents, right? So it made it important for us to reach to their parents who would be available typically if we went to housing
True.
societies, versus say 361, where we are dealing with high net worth and ultra high net worth individuals, right? So when we started in 2008, we used to look at individuals with at least $1 million of investable surplus, whom we would try and onboard as clients, right? Today, that number has evolved where we look at client segments where we look at a million to say $5 million and $5 million and above of investable surplus. So, two segments is what we essentially cater to on the wealth management side. On the asset management side, again, we look at both B2C as well as B2B, because the channel partners, mutual fund distributors, IFAs also are clients who help us distribute our products, but also retail investors, because we also have mutual funds. We also have PMS, portfolio management services. We also have AIFs, which appeal or as per law and the regulator can only be invested with a evolved investor, right? So somebody who understands the risk of investing in products which are under the AIF regime, right? So within 361 itself, right, on one spectrum or on one end, we're looking at ultra high net worth individuals who probably has say 500 crores of net worth, right? Somewhere else, we're looking at somebody who's going to do a SIP of 1000 rupees, right? So and or as well as investor, or channel partner, right, who's going to downsell or cross sell my product down to their clients, right? So the variety, the challenges are very different, because when you are dealing with different kind of customers, different psychologies come into play, and those psychologies kind of necessitates you to change your strategy across the spectrum,
True.
right? So when I'm marketing to an ultra high net worth individual, we take a more
True.
personalized route, right? A more event based, experience based, face to face, or a sensory approach, right? When we are dealing with retail investors, we usually take a route of mass advertising platforms, which allows me huge reach, right, and allows me to sell my product on their platforms. When we are working with channel partners, it's a very knowledge driven industry, right, where we uh, help understand about our products and the larger goal of improving or adding to their knowledge and expertise, which allows them to then go back to their clients and position our products in a favorable
Got it.
manner.
Very interesting. In one brand itself, you have different approaches depending upon the product. So obviously, across industries, there is going to be a lot of difference in the approach.
Absolutely,
Wonderful.
absolutely, Mehul.
Would you like to share any marketing strategy that you have seen create an impact in ROI for 361 per se?
So I think since inception, 2009, when I kind of came on board, what we realized very quickly, Mehul, is given that we are dealing with HNIs and ultra HNI clients, mass media, right? So whether it's out of door, television, radio, print, may not work for us as brilliantly as we would expect, right? Because when you come from a retail industry background, you think, the best way to build a brand is to print front page ads, right? Or get RJs to talk about your brand, right? So you do tie-ups with radio stations or even television ads, right? We've all grown
True.
up seeing TV ads, especially
True.
for FMCG brands, right? And then there are so brilliant ads
Yes.
from our memories
Yes.
from back in the 90s, right? That we are those are
Absolutely.
even evergreen today, right? But we very early on realized saying that look, that may not be the brilliant best approach. So what we did is we did a huge pivot. We moved to something called experiential marketing. Now back in 2010
Hmm.
11, nobody had heard about this word called experiential marketing, or there didn't exist a role called client experiences head, right? I think that's something that has come more recently, right, in the last year or 2 years, right? But in 2010-11, that's what we realized, and we pivoted ourselves to saying, okay, how do we find a FaceTime with the people that we want to reach out to, right? And what is it that they are looking for or are interested in, and why should they come to an event that I'm hosting, right? So thus built the whole strategy of experiential marketing, and since 2011 to today, we are probably the pioneers, or the innovators and the industry leaders in experiential marketing across BFSI. possibly across even other industries. And what has helped us, Mehul, is from a startup with no clients, no assets back in 2008. Today, we are leaders in the industry, right? We've actually changed how wealth management as a platform, as a category, kind of works. Of course, marketing isn't the only differentiator, right? I think we were pioneers also in several product categories. The kind of products that we were able to bring to our clients, right? The kind of service that we gave to them, the kind of personalized approach that we came with. So there are multiple factors, but one of the key factors in building this entire franchise was experiential marketing approach, to the extent where, so for example, if I was to take out some statistics and share with you, in 2017 and 18, the team executed close to 200 plus events in a year. Right now, that's the kind of scale that we are talking about, and these events were multitude. We did webinars online as well. We did product launches, we did client experiences, we did money can't buy experiences, we did annual client events. So multitude of things, right? Both and across genres. There were education-led event, there were entertainment-led event, there were sporting experiences-led event, there were product-focused events, right? So multitude, and both with industry experts as well as 361 experts all coming together. And I think that for us has been, if I was to
Hmm.
say, right, key driver in how we've been able to build and scale the brand over the last 16 years.
Wonderful. I mean, that is, you are talking of one event almost every day, right?
Almost.
That's quite a bit to cover for the entire year, right?
Yeah, and we weren't a massively large team. We were just a team of four or
Amazing.
five people.
That's really insightful. Thank you so much for sharing that, Ronak. Coming to our next question, do share your insights on the role of influencers in marketing today.
I think the way world is moving, right, towards digital, and on an average, and I was just reading some statistics as today morning, an average Indian spends about 6.5 to 7 hours on screen, and then that I think goes for an average adult across the globe. Right now, 7 hours of your wake time when you're spending on a screen, and when I say screen, it could be any screen. It could be mobile, it could be tablet, it could be a laptop, desktop, right, a screen, which essentially means that we are consuming massively on the 5 inch to the 13-inch screens that is in front of us, right? And that's where I think influencers, specifically content creators, play a huge role in helping build brands. And this is my completely personal opinion. uh, Influencers come in multitude of ways. I think influencers are not just those who have a million followers and who charge you that whatever 3 4 5 lakh rupees to do your reels, posts, tweet, etc., right? And I think in that sense, at 361, and then of course we as a firm uh, have been extremely frugal in our sprints, right? And we've been extremely watchful. So what we've used is we've used some of our clients as our influencers, right? And that has allowed us
Amazing.
a huge success in many ways, right? Because we've changed the definition of influencers, right, to not just content creators or having million followers. That person doesn't have
Okay.
any follower, right? But he's at the end of the day a client. He's a consumer, right? And he has or she has the ability to talk about our products and services, our experience, right? And that kind of allows us to gain more clients in the process, right? Because at the end of the day, a job of the influencer is to help me build my brand, right, and help me acquire new
Right.
customers, right? And if I'm able to do that through making my own clients my influencers and using their word, so it's a traditional word of mouth concept, right? We've all been there. We've always promoted services or products that we've
True.
loved, right? So in a way, when that word of mouth used to happen in the earlier days, right, we were acting as influencers essentially. And then we've kind of looked at that, dipped into that whole age old idea, modernized it, right, to kind of bring it out to the marketplace. And I think that's worked brilliantly for us. Of course, given that we are in the financial services space, you know how the
True.
code of advertising from SEBI or any other regulator is, and rightly so. I think in the interest of the small investors, those codes help immensely to safeguard their interests. So I think our regulators are doing a brilliant job. But this, I think, was a great path that we found where, we got customers to kind of be our brand
Very
ambassadors.
interesting. Thanks for sharing that, Ronak. My next question is about SEO, of course. So, what role does SEO play in the overall marketing of any brand, according to you?
Pivotal is my single word if I was to kind of, say that. For any brand to to be seen on the internet, SEO plays a huge role, and Mehul, who better than you kind of knows that, right? Getting discovered, uh, then having the ability to, be present in a prospect's journey to find out the right partner for their need, right, is extremely critical these days. And we are at a stage in the human evolution, right, where everything is being asked to Google, right? And in fact, there are enough memes and jokes, right, saying Google se pooch lo, if you don't know something, right? So that's the power of the engine, the platform. And therein lies also the power of SEO, right? About how can you as a brand become discoverable, right? How can you be found in a customer or a prospect's quest to find the right brand? Of course, that will not help you acquire the client, right? I think that's a hard work that we will have to do as brands. But at least it puts you in a consideration set, or at least the SEO helps you to kind of reach a stage in the customer's discovery journey where he's willing to have that one conversation with the brand. And I think that itself is a huge positive towards the growth of the brand, right? So I think SEO is extremely important. And yeah, we given that we were a very focused on the high net worth, ultra high net worth individual segment, right? Which essentially, if you ask my my target segment across the country in 100 billion, in a 1 billion plus population, right? We're looking at about 300,000 families, right? So for the longest, we believed reaching them directly was the way forward, right? We've, in all humility, we've implemented our SEO strategies quite late in the day, a couple of years back, right? But we now see results and value. In fact, I was just sharing with my senior leadership today itself that one of India's leading manufacturing conglomerate found us online and left a query on our website saying we would like to know more about what you do and engage with your services. This was about 2 weeks ago. Obviously, I cannot name the person, but of course, we know. Um, And then just wanting to share that we sometimes undermine the power of our digital assets, especially our website, which a lot of us think is just a one way communication of talking about our products and services being offered to you, right? But actually it can be a two-way street where people do leave in leads, and this is a large conglomerate. It's a billion plus dollar organization who's left a lead on my website for us to reach out to them.
Wonderful. Thanks, Ronak, for your insights on SEO. Coming to the next question. So, how has user behavior changed over time? I mean, does the user prefer text heavy communication or visual content nowadays, according to you?
Okay, let me answer this in two parts, right? I think, like I said earlier, Mehul, we are seeing a huge, and this applies to us primarily, right? It could be different for different people. So banking could be very different, insurance could be very different, but at the wealth management specifically, right? Like I said, we are seeing a huge transfer of wealth from the older generation to the newer generation, and therein actually lies a huge behavioral change on how each cohort wants to engage. For example, the older generation would want the relationship managers to go and meet them, right? Have a cup of chai, talk about politics, talk about economics, talk about cricket, everything, right? And then in the last 5-10 minutes, saying, "Acha, theek hai, mera portfolio kaisa kar raha hai, and what should I do, and what is the strategy forward, etc." Right? And that would be an hour long conversation where you would end up talking 10, 15, 20 minutes about your portfolio, but 20, 40, almost 40, 35 to 40 minutes, you talk about everything else around, right? Because they preferred engaging with your relationship manager in person, right? Coming to the newer generation, which prefers a lot of DIY tools, right? Do it yourself, or they look at solutions which are tech enabled, right? Um, so that's a very crude user behavior challenges that I've kind of put across, right, between two cohorts. Now, if we are kind of looking at expanding this further, right, it was very easy to acquire or engage with consumers earlier through very simple knowledge driven benefit led approach, right? What has happened today is almost everybody has the same products, everybody has same solutions, right? Everybody is following a very ritualistic same approach to marketing and branding. ठीक है, आप क्या कर लोगे? ईमेल मार्केटिंग कर लोगे, व्हाट्सएप मार्केटिंग कर लोगे, एसएमएस कर लोगे, right? I mean, you'll reach them on digital. Some brands who are evolved will follow the consumer's digital footprint, right? Some brands who are not evolved will continue to use regular outreach methods such as emails, etc., right? Um, but what is happening is how the consumers are facing, and what we've realized, Mehul, is attention
True,
spans are
very true.
shrinking. People today want gratification in a 5 second window span. मतलब अभी तो मेरे को लग रहा है 2 मिनट मैगी नूडल भी ज्यादा टाइम लेती है पकने में. Somehow, you feel that because we've all
Yeah,
grown
yeah.
up eating Maggi noodles, right? And it was a dish that we used to relish and rarely get it, right? The earlier days where we've all grown up. To today, it seems like 2 minutes Maggi noodles. All these also taking 4 minutes to cook, right? And that's the state of affairs, right? And an analogy that I wanted to share. So, I think what is not changing, and this is my again personal experience and belief, is we are digitizing more than required, and the humanization of experience is reducing, right? But I think the humans seek that ability to interact with another human and not through a screen or not through tech, right? So a hybrid model where human and tech kind of coexist, where tech allows the user to access regular mundane activities. For example, in our case, a portfolio statement. Now, Mehul is a client of ours and he wants to access portfolio statement. Earlier, he would call up my relationship manager saying, "Mera portfolio statement bhejo." And bola, "Haan sir, bhejta hu," and he would email it to you. Right? If I was to digitize that task, right, where Mehul doesn't need to call anyone, Mehul can just log into the app or on the platform and access the portfolio statement in real time across the country or across the globe, right? Wherein, if he wanted to invest, say, a crore, 2 crores, 5 crores in a specific product, he would still pick up the phone and talk to the relationship manager and understand the pros and cons and benefits and whether it aligns to his goals and objectives. So, I personally believe only tech doesn't work, only human also doesn't work. A hybrid approach of human plus tech, very thoughtfully soon at in the center, right, providing enough freedom for the user to carry on activities which can be digitized, yet have a human interface to have that frequent conversations.
Got that. That's very, I would say, interesting in the way you put it, because you can probably say that, leave the chore to, digitization, but your core or your the ethos of the brand or service cannot be transferred digitally. It has to have a face. It has to have that human interaction.
Correct, absolutely. See, we all buy into
True.
experiences, right? Experiences that the brands have created. No matter how much I push sell, you will only seek the brand out when there is a
True.
need, right? And then you will at that point in time explore saying who is the leader or which are brands which have got great customer service,
Yeah.
right? And that becomes one of the approaches. And then you look at saying, okay, how can I easily acquire it, right? One reason why Amazon is so popular, right? And literally you struggle to find the customer care number, right? Because they don't want you to call, they want you to solve everything digitally. Or Swiggy's and Zomatos of the world, right? We all use, I'm a consumer of, or a user of Zomato or Swiggy or any of these platforms, Zepto, Blinkit, etc., right? Everything is first going through digital platform, right? And then going to a human, right? And I think that's the right balance which today's consumer expect, right? And for us, Mehul, the experiential marketing or the approach to ensure we create platforms where we can gather people to not only engage with us but engage with community. I think that holds extremely dear and is really favorable, especially after COVID, right? So, in fact, we've got clients who keep asking us, saying, okay, when are we meeting next? When are you hosting something next, right? Because we love to come to that space and not only talk to y'all, but talk to others, right? Gather ideas, gather experiences, gather information, have conversations. So I think
Yeah.
that's still not gone out, or
True.
that's not got dated.
That's the basic need, I would say, which is always there. It's always going to be there.
Correct. Correct. And that's the
Yeah.
basic human psyche of meeting or interacting with
True.
another
Very true.
human being.
Thanks for sharing those insights, Ronak. Let's come to the next question. So, since you have worked with customer experience, can you share some tips on how to enhance customer experience when they visit our website per se?
I think the first and foremost a rule, or not a rule, but I think at least the approach that I follow uh, is to try and understand my customer better, right? Because if I have poor understanding of my customer, how am I going to serve him? Because I don't know his or her needs, I don't know the requirements, I don't know what they are seeking, I don't know what are their challenges, right? So ideally the first step is to try and know the customer better and deeper, right? So at 361, for example, and that's something that is part of what I do at as part of marketing, is to also dive deep into building a customer profile, right? Which essentially covers not only basics of name, email id, mobile number, etc., right? But going deeper down into understanding their behaviors, understanding their preferences, understanding where they come from, what, etc. Once we've kind of built that foundational insight, right, we then start understanding their engagement behavior, right? What are they looking at? How are they engaging with my content? How are they engaging with my digital assets? How are they engaging with us when they come to my office or when we meet at an event or a platform that we've created, right? What are the kind of questions they are asking, right? Which allows us to build insight. Now relationship managers that we have, frontline relationship managers, they are constantly in touch with the customer, so they are always trying to gauge, saying where is the customer in his life journey, right? And then that kind of allows us deep insight and cater to their requirement in a much more informed manner. And I'll come to the website portion slightly later, right? And looking at the customer experience building that we've done, right, we've not just stopped at the customer's level, we've gone deeper into the family level. So today we have engagements not only for my customer but for even their family members. So whether it's their son or their children, right, aged 16 to 20, I have an experience or a property around or an IP around that. Whether it's the women folk of the family, we have an IP around that. Whether it's the graduate or postgraduate children who've come back from their global or overseas studies, etc., right, and trying to find their footing, right, which is essentially between 22 to 30 years old, we have a separate IP for them, right? So what we've essentially curated over the last decade or so is how do we attend to not only the consumer himself or herself but their extended family, right, and engage with them in a far more meaningful manner based on knowledge sharing as the key tenet, right? And then of course a little bit of information, little bit of entertainment, etc., kind of built together. That has worked brilliantly for us because we are not taking care of just the individual, but we are taking care of their family as a whole, right, and assisting them to grow as well in their individual pursuits of life, right? So that's how it is. Now as far as website is concerned, to your question, right, what we've done, and in fact since the rebranding happened from IFL Wealth and Asset Management to 361, of course it entailed change of our digital assets including our website. Our approach for our website was not to talk about what we have to offer you. Of course that happens, but that happens under the aegis of saying what are your problems as a person who's visiting the website, what are your challenges, what are you looking for, what are you seeking, right? And if I'm able to decipher that, quickly within very few clicks, and I'm able to take you to a page with the problem statement and a solution or a potential solution, right? The propensity for the person who's attending the website to leave us a lead or to call us or to email us increases manifold, right? And that I think has been uh, excellent for us in the last 12 to 18 months since we've got rebranded. We've approached our digital assets from this lens, saying how can we make it customer first and brand second.
Right.
And that's really helped us to create a fantastic customer experience. And this is not because it's my website. I'm talking about this. This is the feedback that we've got from our prospects who've come and engaged with us. This is the feedback that we've got from our customers, right? Saying that it's really great the approach that you all have taken. And we now lead through thought leadership. We now lead through knowledge dissemination. So that these two kind of has worked really well for
Very
us.
interesting. Thanks for sharing that, Ronak. Coming to our next question, wanted to know your inputs on AI in marketing. What do you think about that?
Well, I think the more you go on the internet, the more you see fear saying that our jobs will be taken away. My experience has been very different. I'm a heavy user of AI in marketing, right? In fact, I now push my entire team to start using generative AI, and let me tell you, not one job has got lost. In fact, we've hired more people than what we were maybe a year and a half ago, right? I think generative AI, if used correctly, can become a massive aid in a marketeer's life, right? For a couple of reasons. One, given that everyone's attention span and patient levels have just shrunk, we marketeers are constantly chasing deadlines because the business needs everything as of yesterday, right? And it's a marketeer's, it's a reality check, right? No matter how many policies and processes we all build, there will be something which will be required as of yesterday, and we deal with it on a very regular basis, all of us, right? uh, Generative AI in that sense allows us to hasten or speeden the process of output, right? It allows us to build or design things in a manner that possibly we never imagined, we never thought, or were limited by our experience and exposure. And that's also a reality. All of us come with a finite exposure and experience, even though how vast it may be, right? And then AI allows us to kind of break those barriers, in my opinion. Shows us possibilities, shows us things that we never imagined, right? Innovation, it allows us to innovate in multiple ways. So I think generative AI is a great aid in marketeers life. It's not going to take away our jobs, but probably cement our position in the business realm more firmly. Probably get us a seat at the table, right? Which a lot of marketeers struggle to get, because we are always looked as an expense department, right? Or in a lot of cases, creative department, right? Or public relations or media department, right? Or digital, right? I mean, these are the facets of marketing, essentially how we get branded, right? I think it's much more, and then that's a role that we've actually at 361, the marketing department aids in business objective achievement, right? We help business achieve their goals and objectives through content led brand strategy, through data led marketing strategies, and also through being the voice of the consumer, right? And AI plays a huge role in all these three areas, right? Its ability to crunch data, massive data, right, in a much shorter period of time than a human would be able to churn it, right? And not only crunch it, right, but also give you analytics and insights which are
Make
extremely
sense out of
useful.
it, maybe.
Of course, yeah, it makes sense out of that
Correct.
huge chunk of data that we deal on
True.
a daily basis, right? And sometimes we don't
True.
know where to start, right? AI is a humongously useful tool to kind of crunch and make sense of that data. So yeah, I think it's phenomenal what the way the world is going, and it is important and imperative for marketing to lead or speak the business language, and AI essentially allows us or helps us to do that also.
Wonderful the way you put it. That yes, I mean it gives a seat to the marketer on the table, or probably amplifies the voice of the marketer in the room.
Absolutely, absolutely. And because you are using data to lead your conversations, right? It automatically becomes so much more meaningful also to the business.
True, true, very true. That was very insightful. Thanks for that, Ronak. Last question for our audience. What advice do you give to aspiring marketing professionals aiming to succeed in the Indian wealth management sector?
I think, okay, so I may not be applicable to the Indian wealth management sector per se, but I think a generic advice to all marketers who are looking at succeeding and starting, right, is don't expect to become a vice president on day one. Don't expect that the business or the CMO will give you fancy projects right on day one, right? It's a process. It's a lot of effort, right? There's a lot of energy and resources and experience required to reach positions. There's tons of learning, especially in these times when the world is evolving so fast, technology is evolving so fast, consumer behavior is evolving so fast. um, Go slow, be open to ideas, be open to do the dirty work, right? uh, be ready to get down in the trenches, right? And uh, go through that for a few years actually, right? We've all reached where we've reached, not somebody just picking us up and plonking us in our positions. We've all done the dirty work, we've all burned the midnight oil, we've done all of that, and kind of come up the ladder. So I think that still remains. And yeah, I think learn and increase your knowledge. I think that's the other thing that I would say, because the fast pace world that we are in today, everything is changing so quickly. Technologies of today are getting redundant in 6 to 12 to 18 months time, right? Which essentially means that as a marketer, I need to learn on a daily basis, and I learn through my peers, I learn through people who report to me, and I learn from people who I report to. So it's a 360-degree learning. So knowledge is, and then learning is a constant effort. So I think these two advices is what I'll
Wonderful.
give
These
anyone.
are timeless, I would say. They remain throughout, and
Yes.
hopefully, people in the audience would imbibe them. Is my hope. So, with that, we come to the end of the podcast, Ronak. Thank you so much for your wonderful insights, and especially the way you put it. Was something that actually I would say, see the penny dropping at times when we put them in smaller videos or reels. because that is something which is very insightful, and at times it helps you, or makes you go back to the fundamentals, be it digital or whatever. When you talked about the human touch, that is very important. In spite of whatever digitization we have, that cannot be replaced by anything else. So thanks again for sharing those wonderful insights and putting them very nicely for the audience to relish, I would say. And yeah, that's about it.
Thank you so much, Mehul, for having me here, and I'm glad I could share at least my experiences and learnings with the audience. And I hope people
Absolutely,
find
I'm
it
sure they
useful,
will.
and they can draw and draw these insights into their own daily lives, and their
In
daily
fact, you
activities.
are probably, I mean, we have had around close to 100 guests, and you are probably the only one with a wealth management background.
Okay,
So,
interesting.
yeah, yeah.
Glad to
So
know
we have
that.
had from FMCG and other verticals, but yes, wealth management, I think you would be the first.
Sure. No, no, I'm glad that. See again, we're pioneers
Yeah.
here as well.
So thanks, Ronak. So, ladies and gentlemen, we come to the end of yet another episode of the Growth Genius. Ronak put it very nicely when he talked about AI, that it actually helps in amplifying the voice of the marketeer in the room. For more such insights, do watch the podcast. We are available on all audio and video platforms. The link to all of these are given in the descriptor below. So, till the next episode of the Growth Genius, keep learning, keep inspiring. Thank you.